I crouched beside the wooden fence. Meat scraps scattered across the frozen ground. My breath came out in white puffs. 3 winters I've been doing this. 3 winters of watching for silver fur and golden eyes. The metal bowl clinked against ice-hard earth. Something rustled beyond the tree line. My pulse stuttered. The air felt electric tonight, charged with something I couldn't name. A low growl rumbled through the silence. That sound wasn't like the hungry whimpers I'd grown used to. This was deeper, controlled, the kind of sound that made every instinct scream at me to run. But I didn't. Run. I never ran. I know you're there, I whispered into the darkness. It's okay. I won't hurt you. The growl came again, closer this time. My knees wanted to buckle, but I forced myself to stay upright. Golden eyes appeared. 2 pairs, then 4, then 6. My breath caught. I'd seen lone wolves before, maybe 2 at a time. Never this many, never watching me with such focused intensity. The largest one stepped forward, even in dim moonlight. I could see the power in its frame, the way the others deferred without question. This wasn't just any wolf. This was their leader. Its eyes met mine across the small clearing. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. The world felt suspended. Then it looked down at the bowl, back up at me. I took a careful step backward. Go ahead, take it. The alpha padded forward with liquid grace. Massive. Easily twice the size of any wolf I'd seen in documentaries. Its silver-black coat shimmered in pale light. When it reached the bowl, it didn't eat immediately. Instead, it lifted its head and looked at me again. Something passed between us. Something I couldn't understand. You're beautiful, I breathed. The wolf's ears pricked forward. For an instant, I could have sworn I saw something almost human flicker in those golden depths. Then the spell broke. The alpha lowered its head to the bowl. The others crept forward to share the meal. I watched them eat, hearts still racing from that strange moment of connection. When they finished, the alpha turned back to me one last time. It dipped its head in what looked almost like a nod. Then they melted back into shadows as silently as they'd come. I stood there long after they disappeared, staring at the empty bowl. The cold finally drove me toward the house, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted tonight. Something that would change everything. The next morning brought fresh snow and a phone call I'd been dreading. Claire? I know you picked up. My sister's voice was tight with worry. Have you seen the news? I fumbled for the remote. What news? There's been attacks, 3 campsites in the last week. The authorities think it's a wolf pack, shattering against the kitchen floor. On television, a grim-faced reporter stood behind yellow crime scene tape. Victims were found with severe lacerations consistent with large predator attacks. Fish and wildlife officials are organizing a hunt. My blood turned to ice. They're going to hunt them. Claire, you need to be careful. Your place is isolated, and with all that meat you put out, I hung up without saying goodbye. My hands shook as I stared at the footage. Maps now, highlighting attack areas, all of them less than 20 miles from my property. But it couldn't be my wolves. The pack I fed was gentle, cautious. They'd never shown aggression toward me. Had they? That growl echoed in my memory. The sheer size of the alpha, the intelligence in its eyes. I grabbed my coat and boots, shoving my feet into them without tying laces. I had to get to the feeding spot, had to see if they'd left any sign. The bowl was where I'd left it. Licked clean, but there was something else. Paw prints in fresh snow. Dozens of them. These weren't the prints of 6 wolves. These were tracks of at least 20. My pack had grown, or merged with others. The neat circle of prints around where I'd stood told a different story than I'd been telling myself. They hadn't just been eating and leaving. They'd been watching me, studying me. What am I dealing with? I whispered to the empty clearing. A branch snapped behind me. I spun around, heart in my throat. A man stepped out from between pine trees, tall, dark-haired, with broad shoulders that spoke of outdoor living. He moved with the same liquid grace I'd admired in the alpha wolf, but it was his eyes that stopped me cold. golden eyes that seemed far too familiar. "You shouldn't be out here alone," he said. His voice was rough, unused, not with everything that's happening. I stepped backward, my boots skidding on ice. "Who are you? Is this private property?" "I know exactly whose property this is." He moved closer, and I caught something in his scent, wild and clean and masculine. Claire Morrison, 32 years old, works from home as a freelance graphic designer. No close neighbors, no security system. Terror shot through me. "How do you know?" "Lives alone except for an old tabby cat named Pixel. Drives a blue Honda with a dent in the rear bumper. Buys exactly 40 pounds of beef scraps every month." My knees went weak. "You've been watching me." "For 3 years." He stopped just outside arm's reach. "Every winter, every feeding." The world tilted. This stranger knew details about my life that even my sister didn't know. "I should scream," I whispered. "You should run." His golden eyes never left mine. "But you won't. You never run, even when every instinct tells you to." He was right. Even now, with fear coursing through my veins, I couldn't make myself move. There was something about him that held me frozen, something dangerously familiar. "The attacks on the news," I managed. "Were those your wolves?" His jaw clenched. "No, but the humans won't make that distinction. They see wolves, they shoot first." "Your wolves?" He was quiet so long I thought he wouldn't answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "My family." The raw pain in those words hit me like a physical blow. I found myself stepping toward him instead of away. "I don't understand." "You don't need to understand. You just need to stop." He gestured toward the empty bowl. "No more feeding, no more coming out here alone. Pack up and leave until this blows over." "I can't just leave. This is my home." "Then you'll die here." The words were stark, without softening. "The hunt starts tomorrow. They have helicopters, tranquilizer guns. Orders to shoot anything with 4 legs and fangs." My heart clenched. "But you said it wasn't your family who—" "It doesn't matter what I said. It matters what they believe." He turned to leave, then looked back. "Pack a bag, Claire, tonight. Don't make me have to." He cut himself off, but not before I caught the flash of something desperate in his expression. "Have to what?" "Nothing. Just, please, trust me on this." He disappeared back into the trees as silently as he'd appeared, leaving me alone with more questions than answers. The phone rang 6 more times that afternoon. My sister, my editor, 2 neighbors from town, all calling to warn me about the wolves. I let them all go to voicemail. Instead, I stood at my kitchen window, staring at the tree line, trying to make sense of the man with golden eyes, the way he'd moved, the way he'd known things no normal person could know, the way looking at him had felt like recognition. By evening, I'd made my decision. I loaded fresh meat scraps into the bowl and pulled on my winter coat. The clearing looked different in early darkness. More shadows, more places to hide. I set the bowl down and straightened. "I know you're listening," I called out. "I know you can hear me." Silence stretched so long I began to think I was talking to empty air. Then the golden eyes appeared, 20 pairs, just like the tracks had promised. My mouth went dry. But I forced myself to stand my ground. "I saw the news. I know what everyone thinks you did." The largest wolf, my alpha, padded forward. In pale moonlight, its silver-black coat looked almost ethereal. "But I don't think it was you." I took a shaky breath. "I think someone's trying to blame you for something you didn't do." The wolf stopped a few feet away, close enough that I could see the intelligence burning in its eyes. "I'm not leaving." The words came out stronger than I felt. "I don't care what anyone says. This is my home, and you're my friends." It felt ridiculous claiming friendship with wild wolves, but as soon as the words left my mouth, I knew they were true. The alpha stepped closer, so close I could have reached out and touched its fur. Its golden eyes met mine, and again I felt that strange recognition. It pressed its massive head against my outstretched palm. Electricity raced up my arm. The wolf's fur was impossibly soft. Beneath it, I could feel the steady rhythm of its heartbeat. Strong, alive. "I won't let them hurt you," I whispered. "I promise." The wolf pulled back and looked at me for a long moment. Then it lifted its head toward the sky and released a howl that seemed to echo from its very soul. The other wolves joined in, their voices weaving together in haunting harmony, beautiful and heartbreaking all at once. When the last note faded, they began to eat, but they stayed close this time, close enough that I could have counted each one. The alpha remained at my side, a warm presence in the darkness. Every few minutes it would look up at me, as if making sure I was still there. "I won't abandon you," I said softly, "no matter what happens." The wolf's ears pricked forward. For a moment, I could have sworn I heard it whine softly in response. Then helicopter rotors cut through the night air. Every wolf's head snapped up. The alpha pressed closer to my side and I felt its body tense. Searchlights swept across the trees, probing the darkness. The hunters had started early. "Go," I breathed. "You have to go now." But the alpha didn't move. Neither did the others. They formed a loose circle around me, eyes fixed on the approaching lights. My heart hammered. "Please, I'll be fine. Just go." The helicopter was getting closer. Any second now, those searchlights would find our clearing. The alpha made a sound low in its throat, almost like a whimper. Then, as one, the pack melted back into shadows. The alpha was the last to go, pressing its nose against my hand one final time before disappearing. I stood alone as the helicopter passed overhead, my heart breaking with the certainty that I might never see them again. 3 days passed without any sign of the wolves. 3 days of helicopters and hunting parties tramping through the woods. 3 days of waiting for news that would tell me whether my pack was safe. On the 4th morning, I found the man with golden eyes sitting on my front porch. He looked exhausted, dark hair disheveled. Shadows under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. But he was whole, alive. Relief flooded through me. "You're okay." He looked up with those familiar golden eyes. "For now." I settled beside him on the porch step, close enough to catch that wild, clean scent. The others? Safe, for now. He scrubbed a hand over his face. "They killed 12 wolves yesterday. None of them were ours. But," my chest clenched, "but it doesn't matter." "It matters." The words came out rough, almost angry. "Every death matters. But no, it doesn't change anything. They won't stop until they think the threat is eliminated." We sat in silence, watching morning sun slant through pine trees. It felt surreal, sharing a peaceful moment with a man who'd terrified me just days ago. "What's your name?" I asked finally. He was quiet so long I thought he wouldn't answer. "Lucas." "Lucas." I tested the name, liked how it felt. "Are you going to tell me the truth now about what you really are?" His shoulders tensed. "What do you think I am?" "I think you're not entirely human." The words should have sounded crazy. Instead, they felt natural. "I think your family isn't entirely human either." He turned to look at me, and I caught my breath. His eyes were glowing, actually glowing like golden flames. "Are you afraid?" I searched my heart for fear and found something else entirely, something that felt like coming home. "No, I should be, but I'm not." "You should run." "You keep saying that." I shifted until I faced him fully. "But if you wanted to hurt me, you'd have done it already. You've had 3 years of opportunities. 3 years of watching you risk your life for creatures you didn't understand." I understood enough. I thought of the alpha pressing its head into my palm. I understood that they were hungry, that they needed help. They weren't the only ones who needed help. Something in his tone made me look at him more closely. "What do you mean?" Lucas stared out at the forest. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "I was dying when you started feeding us. Not physically, but..." He gestured vaguely at his chest. "In here, I'd forgotten what it felt like to be cared for." My throat tightened. "Lucas, you saved me." He met my eyes, and the raw gratitude there took my breath away. "You saved all of us, not just with food, but with kindness, acceptance." I reached out without thinking, covering his hand with mine. His skin was warm, calloused, completely human. except for the way he went completely still at my touch. "You don't have to thank me," I said softly. "It was the right thing to do. Most humans wouldn't agree. Then, most humans are wrong." He lifted our clasped hands, pressing my palm against his chest. Beneath my fingers, his heart was beating fast. "I could hurt you without meaning to. My kind, we're not always in complete control. But you are." I could feel the restraint in every line of his body. "Right now, you're in perfect control." "Right now, yes." His eyes darkened. "But there are other times. Times when the line between human and wolf gets blurred." My pulse skipped. "Show me." "Claire, show me," I repeated. "I want to understand." He searched my face for a long moment. Then he closed his eyes and took a deep breath. The change was subtle at first. His canines lengthened slightly. His fingernails grew sharper. The golden glow in his eyes intensified until they looked like molten fire. But it was still Lucas, still the man who'd sat on my porch looking lost. "You're beautiful," I whispered, echoing words I'd spoken to his wolf that first night. He opened his eyes, and the wonder in them nearly broke my heart. "You're not running." "I'm not running," I confirmed, "and I'm not going to." He lifted his free hand to cup my cheek, thumb brushing over my skin with infinite gentleness. "You should. Stop telling me what I should do." I leaned into his touch. "I'm exactly where I want to be." For a moment, I thought he might kiss me. His gaze dropped to my lips, and I felt something electric shift between us. Then the sound of engines cut through the morning quiet. Lucas's head snapped up, his whole body going rigid. Hunters. The trucks were still distant, but getting closer. I could hear men's voices, baying of tracking dogs. "They're coming this way." Lucas was on his feet, pulling me up with him. "You need to get inside. Lock the doors." "What about you?" His eyes were already shifting, becoming more wolf than human. "I have to warn the others." "Lucas, wait!" But he was already gone, disappearing into the forest with inhuman speed. I stood on my porch as the hunting party grew steadily closer. Despite his warning, I knew I wouldn't be hiding inside while his family was in danger. I grabbed my truck keys and headed for the driveway. If the hunters wanted to find Lucas's pack, they'd have to go through me first. The hunting party had set up base camp in the clearing where I'd been feeding the wolves for 3 years. Seeing their trucks and equipment scattered across ground that held precious memories made my chest burn with anger. I parked at the edge and climbed out. "This is private property. You need to leave." A tall man in camouflage turned toward me, weathered face, cold eyes that assessed me like a potential threat. "You the Morrison woman?" He didn't wait for an answer. "I'm Jim Bradley, Fish and Wildlife. We're tracking a dangerous pack through this area." "There's no dangerous pack on my land." He gestured toward the metal bowl lying on its side. "Then what's this for? You've been feeding them, haven't you?" My heart sank. The evidence was undeniable. "I've been putting out scraps for whatever animals might need them. That's not illegal. It is when those animals are killing people." Bradley stepped closer, and I caught the scent of tobacco and gun oil. "3 campers are dead because of the pack you've been encouraging. You don't know it was the same wolves." "Wolves are wolves. They get a taste for human blood. They don't stop." His eyes narrowed. "Where are they now?" "I don't know what you're talking about. Lady, I've got 20 men with tranquilizer guns surrounding these woods. We've got helicopters on standby and tracking dogs. We're gonna find them whether you cooperate or not." The casual certainty in his voice chilled my blood. He wasn't just hunting wolves. He was hunting Lucas's family. "Please!" I dropped the pretense, letting my desperation show. "They're not dangerous. I've been around them for 3 years, and they've never hurt anyone. That you know of." "I would know. They're gentle creatures." A howl cut through the air, distant but unmistakable. Every man in the clearing went rigid, hands moving to weapons. Bradley smiled coldly. "Sounds like they just told us exactly where they are." He barked orders to his men, who packed equipment with military efficiency. Within minutes, they were loaded into trucks and heading toward the sound. I stood alone in the ruined clearing, watching their taillights disappear. knowing I'd just witnessed the beginning of a massacre. Unless I could stop it. I ran back to my truck, hands shaking as I fumbled with keys. The howl had come from the north, near the old logging road. If I took the back way, I might get there before the hunting party. Might be able to warn Lucas before it was too late. The truck bounced over rough terrain, but I pushed it as fast as I dared. Tree branches scraped windows, rocks pinged off the undercarriage. I had to reach them first. The old logging road ended at a small meadow, surrounded by towering pines. I killed the engine and jumped out, scanning shadows for movement. "Lucas," I called out. "It's Claire. You have to get out of here." Silence. Then a familiar figure stepped out from behind a massive tree trunk. He was in human form, but barely. Eyes glowing, canines extended. Every line of his body spoke of controlled violence. "You shouldn't have come." His voice was rougher now, more growl than words. "It's not safe. The hunters are coming. They have dogs, helicopters." I grabbed his arm, feeling coiled tension in his muscles. "You have to run, all of you. We can't." His gaze flicked toward the trees behind him. "One of our pack is injured. We won't leave him behind." My heart clenched. "Then I'll help you carry him." "Claire, no, this isn't your fight." "Yes, it is." I met his glowing eyes without flinching. "It became my fight the moment I started caring about you." He stared at me for a long moment. Then he cupped my face in his hands, touch gentle despite the claws. "You're sure? Once you cross this line, there's no going back." Engine sounds grew louder in the distance. We were running out of time. "I crossed that line 3 years ago," I said. "The first time I put food out for a starving wolf pack." Something shifted in his expression, something that looked like love. "Then come on." He took my hand. "Let me show you what family really means." He led me into the trees, where golden eyes waited in shadows, where acceptance felt like coming home. For the first time in my life, I wasn't running towards something or away from it. I was exactly where I belonged. The injured wolf was smaller than the others. With silver gray fur and pain-glazed eyes, he lay on his side beneath pine trees, breathing in shallow pants that made my chest ache. What happened to him? I knelt beside the wounded animal, reaching out to stroke his head. "Hunter's trap." Lucas's voice was tight with rage. 3 days ago we got him free, but I could see the problem. The wolf's left hind leg was swollen and clearly broken. Even if they could carry him, he'd never keep up. "There's a veterinarian in town," I said. "Dr. Reeves. She'd help if I asked." Lucas shook his head. "Too risky. She'd have questions we can't answer." Barking dogs drifted through the trees, getting closer. Then what? I looked around at the pack members gathered in shadows. At least 15 wolves, all watching me with intelligent golden eyes. "You can't all stay here." "We know." A woman's voice spoke behind me. I spun around, gasping. Where there had been empty space, a tall woman with dark hair and golden eyes now stood, wearing jeans and flannel, but moving with the same liquid grace. "You're like Lucas," I breathed. "We all are." She gestured toward the wolves around us. "Some of us just find it easier to hold human form when stressed." As if to prove her point, 2 more wolves shimmered and changed, their forms flowing like water until they stood upright. My mind reeled, but there was no time to process. The dogs were getting closer. "The injured one," I said. "Can he change?" "Not while he's hurt." The woman looked at Lucas. "Pain keeps him locked in wolf form." "Then we carry him." Lucas's tone brooked no argument. "Find somewhere defensible and make our stand." "No." The word came out harder than intended. "There's another way." They all turned to look at me, human and wolf alike, waiting. "My truck. I can get him out while you lead the hunters away." "Claire," Lucas started, "it's the only way, and you know it." I looked down at the injured wolf, who was watching me with alert eyes. "I can have him at the vet's office in 20 minutes. Tell her I found him caught in an old trap." "And us?" I met Lucas's gaze steadily. "You do what you do best. You disappear." The woman spoke up. "She's right, it's our best chance." Lucas looked torn. "I don't like leaving you." "You're not leaving me." I reached out and took his hand. "You're trusting me." "There's a difference. The barking was much closer now. We could hear voices too, men coordinating their search. "Decide now," the woman said urgently. Lucas squeezed my hand. "If anything happens to you, nothing will happen. I'm just a concerned citizen helping an injured animal." I tried to smile, though my heart was hammering. "Go. I'll take good care of him." Two pack members in human form carefully lifted the injured wolf, while Lucas and I hurried back to my truck. We laid the wounded animal gently in the truck bed, and I grabbed an old blanket to cover him. "What's his name?" I asked. "Sean." Lucas touched the wolf's head gently. "He's my youngest brother." My throat tightened. "I'll bring him back to you, I promise." Lucas caught my face in his hands and kissed me. It was brief, desperate, and tasted like goodbye. "Be careful," he whispered against my lips. Then he melted back into shadows with the rest of his family, leaving me alone with an injured werewolf and a truck full of hope. I drove carefully but quickly down the mountain, checking the rearview mirror to make sure Sean was still breathing. Every few minutes, I caught a glimpse of his golden eyes watching me. "It's going to be okay," I told him. "Dr. Reeves is good with animals. She'll fix you up." The wolf made a soft sound that might have been agreement. The veterinary clinic was closed, but I knew where Dr. Reeves lived. I'd brought her injured birds and stray cats often enough that she wouldn't be surprised. I parked in her driveway and ran to the front door, hammering with both fists. "Sarah, it's Claire Morrison. I need help." The door opened to reveal a middle-aged woman with graying hair and kind eyes. Dr. Sarah Reeves had been taking care of animals in our mountain community for over 20 years. "Claire, what's wrong?" "I found an injured wolf on my property. I think his leg is broken." Her eyebrows shot up. "A wolf? Are you sure it wasn't a large dog?" "I'm sure. He was caught in an old trap. Please, Sarah. He's in pain." She grabbed her medical bag without another word. "Let's take a look." Sean was still conscious when we reached the truck, though his breathing seemed more labored. Dr. Reeves examined him carefully, her hands gentle but thorough. "This is definitely a wolf," she murmured. "A big one. The leg is broken in 2 places. Can you fix it?" "I can try. But Claire," she looked at me seriously, "you know there's a hunt going on. If anyone finds out I treated a wolf instead of putting it down, they won't find out." I met her eyes. "Sarah, he was just hungry, just trying to survive. That's not a crime." She studied my face for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Help me get him into the clinic. And Claire." This conversation never happened. 3 hours later, Sean was sleeping peacefully in a recovery cage, his legs set and bandaged. Dr. Reeves had given him something for pain, and his breathing was steady and deep. "He should be fine in a few weeks," she told me. "But he'll need to stay quiet. No running or jumping." "I'll take good care of him." "I know you will." She handed me a bottle of pain medication and care instructions. "Bring him back in a week for a checkup." I loaded the still sleeping wolf back into my truck as carefully as possible. He was heavier than expected, even injured, but I managed to get him settled in the passenger seat where I could watch him. The drive home felt endless. Every mile without word from Lucas made my anxiety ratchet higher. Were he and the pack safe? Had they managed to evade the hunters? Sean woke up as we turned into my driveway. He lifted his head groggily, blinking at me with those familiar golden eyes. "We're home," I told him. "Well, my home, anyway. You'll be safe here until you heal." I'd prepared a space in my living room. Soft blankets, water, and food bowls, everything a recovering wolf might need. It felt surreal, setting up recovery area for a creature that was both wild animal and something more. Sean seemed to approve. He settled onto the blankets with a soft sigh, his golden eyes tracking my movements as I puttered around. "Your brother will come back," I said, more to reassure myself than him. "Lucas won't leave you behind." The wolf's ears perked up at his brother's name. For a moment, I could have sworn I saw understanding flicker in his expression. Outside, night was falling. Somewhere in that darkness, Lucas and his pack were hiding from armed hunters who saw them as nothing more than dangerous animals. But they were so much more. They were a family. They were my family now. In a way I was only beginning to understand. I settled into the armchair next to Sean's bed and prepared to wait. However long it took, I'd be here when Lucas came home. We'd all be here. 4 days passed without word from Lucas or the pack. 4 days of news reports about the ongoing wolf hunt. Of helicopters circling overhead, of trying not to imagine the worst. Sean was healing well. The pain medication had helped, and he was starting to put weight on his injured leg. But he remained in wolf form, watching me with 2 intelligent eyes. On the 5th morning, I woke to find a man sitting in my living room. Not Lucas. This one was younger, with the same dark hair and golden eyes, but a leaner build. He wore clothes that had seen better days, torn jeans and a flannel shirt with missing buttons. "You must be Claire." His voice was rough, unused. "I'm Sean." I sat up on the couch where I'd been sleeping. You can change now. The pain's manageable." He flexed his left leg carefully. "Still hurts, but not enough to keep me locked." "Where's Lucas? Is he okay?" Sean's expression darkened. "Alive, but they've got us scattered across 3 counties. Every time we try to regroup, helicopters show up." My heart clenched. "What can I do to help?" "You've done enough." He gestured toward his bandaged leg. "More than enough. Lucas wanted me to tell you to pack a bag and leave town until this blows over." "Absolutely not." Sean raised an eyebrow. "He said you'd say that." "Then why did he send the message?" "Because he had to try." Sean leaned back, studying me with piercing golden eyes. "You're his mate. He can't think clearly when it comes to your safety." The casual way he said it hit me like a physical blow. "His what?" "Mate, life partner, the other half of his soul." Sean's mouth quirked up in what might have been a smile. "You didn't know?" I opened and closed my mouth without producing sound. Lucas and I had kissed exactly once, and it had lasted maybe 5 seconds. "I think you're mistaken." "I can smell him on you." Sean's nostrils flared slightly. "And you on him. The bond's already started forming." "Bond?" "Pack bonds are different for humans, stronger in some ways." He searched for the word. "Permanent." My head was spinning. "Sean, I don't understand any of this." "You don't have to understand it. You just have to accept it." He leaned forward. "Lucas has been alone for a long time. We all have. What you've given us, it's more than food. It's hope. I just wanted to help." "I know. That's what makes you perfect for him." Sean stood, testing weight on his injured leg. "I need to get back to the pack. Will you be okay here?" "Wait." I scrambled to my feet. "Take me with you." "Claire, I mean it. I want to see Lucas. I want to help." Sean shook his head. "Too dangerous. The hunters have dogs, thermal imaging, if they catch you with us." "They won't catch us." I grabbed his arm. "Please, I can't just sit here waiting." Something in my voice must have convinced him. He studied my face, then nodded reluctantly. "Get dressed. Warm clothes, good boots." "And Claire?" His golden eyes were serious. "Once we leave here, we do this my way. No arguments." I was dressed and ready in 5 minutes. Sean led me out the back door and into the forest, moving with the same liquid grace as his brother, despite his injury. "Stay close," he murmured. "Step where I step. And whatever happens, don't run unless I tell you to." We moved through trees in silence, Sean somehow finding paths where I saw only undergrowth. The morning air was crisp and clean, scented with pine and the promise of snow. After what felt like hours but was probably 30 minutes, Sean held up a hand for me to stop. He tilted his head, listening to something I couldn't hear. Then Lucas stepped out from behind a massive tree trunk. He looked terrible, exhausted, stressed, with dark circles under his eyes and clothes that had seen too many nights sleeping rough. But he was alive and whole. Relief flooded through me so intensely I nearly collapsed. "Claire," my name came out like a prayer. "What are you doing here?" "Looking for you." I crossed the space between us in 3 quick steps and threw my arms around him. He held me tight against his chest, his face buried in my hair. I could feel the tension leaving his body. "You're supposed to be safe," he murmured, "far away from here. I'm supposed to be with you." I pulled back to look at him. Sean told me about mates, about bonds. Lucas's whole body went rigid. He shot a glare at his brother that could have melted steel. "Sean." She had a right to know. Sean's tone was unapologetic, especially if you're planning to keep sending her away. "It's complicated." "It's not." I cupped Lucas's face in my hands, feeling the familiar jolt of electricity. "It's the simplest thing in the world." His golden eyes searched mine. "Claire, you don't understand what you're saying. The bond, once it's complete, it's forever. No takebacks." "Good." I stood on my toes and kissed him, pouring everything I felt into the contact. "Because I'm not planning to change my mind." When we broke apart, his eyes were glowing. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." He rested his forehead against mine. "Then we do this together. All of it." "All of it," I agreed. Sean cleared his throat. "As touching as this is, we need to move. Search parties will be here soon." Lucas nodded, but he didn't let go of my hand. "Where's the rest of the pack?" "Scattered, but I know where they'll be tonight." Sean glanced at me. "There's a place we go when we need to disappear completely. Cave system about 10 miles north." "Can you make it that far on your leg?" "I'll manage." Sean's expression was determined. "We all will." Lucas squeezed my hand. "It won't be comfortable or safe." "I don't care. The hunters will never find us." I met his eyes steadily. "Because we're going to outsmart them, all of us, together." A slow smile spread across his face. "Together." As we started moving deeper into the forest, I felt something click into place inside my chest, like a puzzle piece finding its perfect fit. This was where I belonged. Not just in these mountains, but here, with Lucas and his family, with people who understood what it meant to be different, to be hunted, to find strength in each other. I was home. The cave system was unlike anything I'd ever seen. Hidden behind a waterfall and accessible only through a narrow crack in rock, it opened into interconnected chambers that could house 50 people, or 50 wolves. The pack had already gathered when we arrived, some in human form, others as wolves, all watching me with curious but accepting eyes. I counted at least 20 individuals. Everyone. Lucas's voice carried easily through the main chamber. "This is Claire. She's under my protection, under all our protection." A murmur of acknowledgement rippled through the group. No questions about my presence, no challenges, just quiet acceptance. "The hunters?" asked a woman with silver-streaked hair who seemed to be one of the pack elders. "Still searching," Sean reported. "But they're focused on lower elevations. They haven't figured out we can climb yet." "They will," Lucas said grimly. "We need to plan for the long term." "Or," I said quietly, "we end this." Every eye in the cave turned to me. The silence stretched until it became uncomfortable. "Explain," the elder woman said. I took a deep breath. "The attacks that started this hunt, they weren't random, were they?" Lucas and several others exchanged glances. "No," he said finally. "They were targeted, coordinated." "By who?" "Another pack, one that doesn't share our restraint when it comes to humans." My blood chilled. "They're trying to start a war. They're trying to eliminate competition," the elder woman corrected. "If they can get humans to wipe out peaceful packs, they'll have free reign in this territory." "But they made one mistake," I said, the plan forming as I spoke. "They assumed no human would ever try to protect wolves." Lucas caught on first. "Claire, no, it's too dangerous. It's the only way." I looked around at the faces surrounding me. I have credibility with the authorities. I'm the local woman who's been feeding wolves for 3 years. If I tell them there are 2 different packs, they won't believe you, Sean said. "They might, especially if I have proof." "What kind of proof?" the elder woman asked. "Video evidence of your pack's behavior, documentation of the feeding routine, character witnesses from town who can vouch for no incidents near my property." The cave fell silent as they considered it. "It could work," someone said from the back. "Or it could get Claire killed," Lucas said harshly. "The moment she goes public, she becomes a target, for the hunters and for the rogue pack." "I'm already a target," I took his hand, lacing our fingers together. The moment I decided to stand with you, I became part of this war. The only question is whether I'm going to hide or actually fight. Lucas stared at me for a long moment. Then he turned to address the pack. All in favor? Hands and paws rose throughout the cave. Not all of them, but enough. All opposed? A smaller number of hands went up, including Lucas's own. Motion carries, the elder woman said with satisfaction. Claire, you have our support. What do you need? I straightened my shoulders. A way to contact the media without getting anyone killed. And about 12 hours to figure out how to save us all. Lucas squeezed my hand. 18 hours, he said. If we're doing this, we're doing it right. I looked around at the faces surrounding us. At the family I'd somehow acquired. At the man whose golden eyes had been haunting my dreams for 3 years. 18 hours, I agreed. Then we end this war. The plan was simple in concept, complex in execution. I would return home and contact a journalist I knew from college who now worked for a regional news station. I'd offer her an exclusive interview about feeding the wolf pack, complete with video evidence of their peaceful behavior. But first we had to get that evidence. Lucas and I spent the morning setting up a camera at the old feeding spot. We used my truck's headlights for illumination and scattered fresh meat scraps in a wide circle. This feels like a trap, Lucas muttered as he adjusted the camera angle. It is a trap, just not for your pack. I checked the battery level for the 3rd time. Sarah Peterson loves a good story. If I tell her I have exclusive footage of a peaceful wolf pack being hunted, she'll be here with a film crew before sunset. And if the hunters find us first, they won't. I hoped I sounded more confident than I felt. They're still searching the caves on the south face. We have hours. Lucas straightened and pulled me into his arms. I don't like putting you in danger. I don't like being in danger, I admitted. But I like the alternative less. He pressed his lips to my forehead. Promise me something. Anything. If this goes wrong, if the hunters come or the rogue pack shows up, promise me you'll run. I started to shake my head, but he caught my chin and forced me to meet his eyes. Promise me, Claire. I can't lose you. The raw desperation in his voice broke my heart. I promise. It was a lie. And we both knew it. But sometimes lies were kinder than truth. The pack arrived just after sunset, materializing from the forest like shadows given form. In the harsh glare of the truck's headlights, they should have looked menacing. Instead, they looked like what they were, a family gathering for their evening meal. I kept the camera rolling as they approached the scattered meat. Lucas remained in human form beside me. But the others stayed as wolves. The footage would be more powerful that way. Look at them, I murmured, knowing the camera's microphone would pick up my voice. They're not attacking anything, not fighting over food. They're just hungry. The alpha female, not Lucas, but the elder woman from the cave, lifted her head and looked directly at the camera. For a moment, her golden eyes seemed to glow in artificial light. Then she dipped her head in what looked unmistakably like acknowledgement. Did you see that? I whispered. She knows we're here. She knows we're filming. And she's not afraid. The feeding lasted 20 minutes. When they finished, the pack lingered. Several approaching the camera with obvious curiosity. One of the younger wolves came close enough that I could have reached out and touched him. 3 years, I said softly. I've been feeding this pack for 3 years, and not once have they shown aggression toward me. Not once have they made me feel unsafe. The young wolf tilted his head as if listening. Then he sat down and began grooming himself, completely at ease. They're not monsters, I continued. They're not killers. They're just trying to survive in a world that sees them as the enemy. When the wolves finally melted back into forest, I kept filming for another 10 minutes. Just the empty clearing and scattered bones they'd left behind. This is what remains after a feeding, I said to the camera. No human casualties, no destruction, just evidence of creatures doing what they need to do to survive. I finally turned off the camera and let out a shaky breath. How did it look? Lucas was staring at the tree line where his family had disappeared, like the most dangerous thing you've ever done. But did it look convincing? He turned back to me, his golden eyes reflecting the headlights' glare. It looked real, because it was real. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to Sarah Peterson's number. Here goes nothing. She answered on the second ring. Claire Morrison? My God, I haven't heard from you since graduation. Hi, Sarah. I need a favor. A big one. I'm listening. I took a deep breath. How would you like an exclusive story about the wolf hunt from someone who's actually been in contact with the pack? There was a long pause. Are you serious? Dead serious. I have footage, Sarah. Video evidence that these wolves aren't the monsters everyone thinks they are. Claire, if this is some kind of joke, it's not a joke, but I need guarantees. My safety. Editorial control over how the story is presented, and a promise that you'll look into there being more than one pack involved. Another pause. More than one pack? I think someone's been using this hunt to settle old scores, and I think I can prove it. Where are you now? I looked at Lucas, who nodded grimly. Home. Can you be here by tomorrow morning? I'll leave tonight. Sarah's voice was tight with excitement. Claire, if you're right about this, I'm right. The question is whether anyone will listen. After I hung up, Lucas and I stood in the empty clearing, surrounded by darkness and the weight of what we'd set in motion. No going back now, he said quietly. No going back, I agreed. Are you ready for this? He took my hand, his fingers warm and steady around mine. As long as you're with me, I'm ready for anything. I squeezed his hand and looked up at stars visible through the canopy of pine branches. Somewhere out there. His family was depending on us to save them. We wouldn't let them down. Sarah Peterson arrived at dawn with a full news crew and enough equipment to film a documentary. She looked exactly the same as in college, sharp-eyed, ambitious, and absolutely fearless when she smelled a good story. Show me what you've got, she said without preamble. I loaded the footage onto my laptop and watched her expression change as she saw the wolves calm, almost gentle behavior. When the alpha female nodded at the camera, Sarah actually gasped. This is incredible, she breathed. How long have you been documenting them? This is the first video, but I've been feeding them for 3 years. I pulled up photos on my phone. Look at the dates. Look at the locations, all within half a mile of my house. And there have never been any incidents? Never. They're as predictable as domestic dogs. They come for food, they eat. They leave. No aggression, no territorial behavior toward humans. Sarah was already taking notes. What made you think there might be 2 separate packs? This was the tricky part. I couldn't tell her about Lucas and his family's true nature, but I could share my observations. The attacks happened 20 miles south of here. Different territory, different behavior patterns. The wolves I've been feeding would never approach a human camp. They're too cautious. When wolves have territories, they don't usually overlap. Exactly. I pulled up a map on my laptop, marking attack sites and my feeding locations. Look at the distance. Look at the terrain. These have to be 2 separate groups. Sarah studied the map, her reporter's instincts clearly engaged. You said you had proof? I've been keeping detailed records. I handed her a thick folder. Feeding times, weather conditions, pack behavior. Numbers of animals. 3 years of data that shows a stable, non-aggressive group. And you're willing to go on camera? I glanced at Lucas, who was standing quietly in the corner. He nodded almost imperceptibly. Yes, but I want to do it at the feeding site. I want people to see where this has been happening. Claire, Sarah's voice was gentler now. You understand this could put you in danger if you're right about there being a rogue pack? They won't appreciate you exposing them. I'm already in danger. We all are. The hunters aren't making distinctions between aggressive and peaceful wolves. They're planning to kill anything with 4 legs and fangs. When's the next feeding? Tonight, same time as always. Sarah grinned, and I remembered why she'd been such a good journalist even in college. Then that's when we film. I want to see this interaction firsthand. As her crew began setting up equipment, Lucas pulled me aside. You know this changes everything. he said quietly. Once this airs, there's no hiding anymore. No pretending we're just ordinary wolves. I know, I touched his cheek, feeling familiar warmth. Are you ready for that? I've been hiding so long, I'd forgotten what it felt like to hope for acceptance. His golden eyes met mine. But watching you fight for us, it makes me think maybe it's possible. It is possible. We just have to be brave enough to try. He caught my hand and pressed it flat against his chest, over his heart. Together? Together. The filming that evening went even better than I dared hope. The pack seemed to understand the importance of what we were doing. They approached the cameras without fear, allowed the news crew to document their feeding behavior, and even interacted gently with me while cameras rolled. When Sarah interviewed me afterward, I spoke from the heart about what these wolves had meant to me, about the connection I'd felt, the trust that had grown between us. And my absolute certainty that they pose no threat to humans. These aren't monsters, I said, looking directly into the camera. They're intelligent, social creatures just trying to survive. And they're being hunted to extinction because of fear and misunderstanding. Sarah's story aired the next morning on regional news, and by afternoon it had been picked up by national outlets. My phone rang constantly, other reporters wonking interviews. Wildlife experts asking for information, and surprisingly, several officials from Fish and Wildlife requesting meetings. But it was the call from Jim Bradley that changed everything. Ms. Morrison, this is Jim Bradley, Fish and Wildlife. I saw your story. My heart hammered against my ribs. Mr. Bradley, I owe you an apology. My team found the rogue pack this morning. 12 wolves, operating 30 miles south of your location. They were aggressive, doesn't begin to cover it. Are they? Eliminated, all of them. His voice was grim. Ma'am, I want you to know that the hunt on your property has been called off. Your wolves are safe. Relief flooded through me so powerfully I had to sit down. Thank you. No, thank you. That footage you provided, it showed us what we should have been looking for all along. The difference between animals acting on instinct and animals acting with intelligence. After I hung up, I found Lucas sitting on my front porch, staring out at the forest. His whole body language spoke of a man who'd forgotten how to believe in good news. It's over, I told him. The hunt's been called off. He looked up at me with those golden eyes, and I saw hope warring with disbelief. You're sure? I'm sure. I sat down beside him and took his hand. Your family is safe. Lucas, all of you. For a moment he didn't respond. Then he pulled me into his arms and held me so tightly I could barely breathe. I can't believe it, he whispered against my hair. I can't believe it's really over. It's over, and we did it together. You did it. He pulled back to look at me. You saved us all. We saved each other. As the sun set behind the pine trees, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Lucas stood and held out his hand to me. There's something I want to show you, he said. He led me to the old feeding spot where the pack was already gathering, but tonight felt different. Tonight felt like celebration. As we approached, they all turned toward us, wolves and humans alike, their golden eyes reflecting the last light of day. The elder woman stepped forward, and for the first time since I'd known her, she smiled. Welcome to the family, she said simply. Lucas's hand found mine in the growing darkness. The bond, he said quietly. Are you ready to make it complete? I looked around at the faces surrounding us, at the family I'd found in the most impossible place, at the man who'd shown me what it meant to love without reservation. I've been ready since the first night I saw golden eyes in the darkness, I said. He lifted our joined hands and pressed them over his heart. Then bind yourself to me, Claire. To all of us. In forever, the pack formed a circle around us. Their voices rising in a wordless song that seemed to resonate in my very bones. Lucas's eyes began to glow, and I felt something shift inside my chest, something that felt like coming home. I choose this, I said, my voice carrying clearly in the night air. I choose you. I choose all of you. The song reached its crescendo, and suddenly I could feel them all, every heartbeat, every breath, every thought touched with warmth and acceptance. I was no longer just Claire Morrison, the woman who lived alone in the woods. I was Pack. I was family. I was exactly where I belonged. Lucas kissed me under the starlight, and when we broke apart, his smile was brighter than the moon above. "Welcome home," he whispered. Around us, the pack began to shift and change, some taking wolf form to race joyfully through the trees, others remaining human to embrace and laugh and celebrate. The nightmare was over. The war was won. And in the middle of it all, surrounded by the family I'd never known I was searching for, I finally understood what it meant to be complete. The clearing filled with the sound of celebration, howls of joy echoing through the mountains, carrying the news that peace had returned to these ancient woods, that love had triumphed over fear, that sometimes the most beautiful families are the ones you never see coming. If you enjoyed this story of finding family in the most unexpected places, I'd love for you to like and subscribe for more tales of love conquering all.